Brandon Steiner, the one and only business partner, friend, Collectible Exchange. What else haven't you done? It's so good to have you on my podcast.
What's fascinating for me, and I feel the same way, Rich, it's been fascinating to have a partnership with you, and you're able to work me into the Keller family. But, learning this business, I mean, I hate to say this, but if I were to do it all over again, I'd have to take a much deeper dive into real estate. And maybe I'm just seeing it through your eyes, but it's just been fascinating the last 3 years, especially my family. When I go home and tell them I'm doing stuff with you, and they're like, "What do you know about real estate?" I'm like, "Nothing." And then, like 3 years later, I feel like I've really gotten a really nice, view of the business, and it's just incredible. I mean, and maybe that's the way you approach it, but there's so many angles and different ways to look at things. And particularly the offices and the business you built, it's been amazing just to be a small little part of it.
It's pretty cool. And one of the things we always say, I joke around with you all the time, it's like we reverse roles. I want to be in your world, you want to be in mine, and it's kind of funny how we both over time, I guess, I find the collectible exchange business a lot more interesting than the real estate business, obviously, because it's something new, and I'm assuming that's the same way with you.
And it's what's crazy is how similar, business is business, and relationships, talent acquisition. How important is that? Like, it really overemphasized to me how important talent acquisition is, the importance of, recruiting, relationship building. I mean, all the main fundamentals that's true in real estate are true in, with the Steiner Agency and Collectible Exchange. I mean, you're not getting Mariano to sign stuff unless you have a relationship with him, with all the money he's made. And then you get, relationships with building owners, developers, and that's how you get yourself into being able to, flip a whole bunch of apartments or real estate or buildings or land. So it's been, for me, I love the fact of going into a brand new business with no knowledge. It was like I came in, I didn't really have much to bring to the table in my mind. Like, I was just sitting in your office for, I don't know how many, like a year almost.
Getting to know each other.
Just learning and just listening. And it is a great way to learn a lot more about your own business when you go take a dive into a business that has nothing to do with the business you're trying to learn about.
I did it all the time. I learn a lot, but just sitting there listening to you, 100% right. It's funny. I want to get right into this real quick too. It's interesting. We had the same paths in some way. We followed the same type of people. One of them, and I always wanted to thank you for this, and I always did. Every time I see you and get the chance to, I thank you for it from last year, bringing me to Harvey McKay. Tell everybody how important it is to follow a guy like that. How great it, what he did to inspire you and I.
Well, I think that the misunderstanding that a lot of people have is that you don't have to be best friends with someone for them to be your mentor. You, especially in this day and age, you can follow somebody that you respect and take a deep dive by reading their books, following them on YouTube, following them on social, and even maybe you're lucky enough to meet. I never met Harvey. I was a Harvey McKay disciple for 20 years before I ever met him, and then became friends and was part of his roundtable. My favorite Harvey line is the little things are important, not true. The little things are everything.
That's right.
And the emphasis in so many meetings and conversations with Harvey just reminds me of how important to do the little things or just to do as much as you can for as many people as you can. And I think what's great about Harvey is that even at 92, he is still kicking. He's still learning. And I think the main thing I got out of the Harvey was at 50, and I had some pretty good success, very grateful for, having a lot of financial success. But I realized I needed to change my flock, the people I was meeting, change it up. And then also realizing how important it is to learn. I think my whole key to some of the things I've been able to do is because I'm such a curious cat. And because I'm not that smart, and because I have a problem reading and writing, I've had some literacy issues. Even though I've written 4 books, and Harvey reminds me how important it is to just keep getting coaches, keep learning, keep getting people to help you. And I would say I lead the league in getting help from people. I'm not afraid to ask for help. I'm not afraid to give help.
Where did that come from?
It comes from my mom. My mom, I guess when you can't fall off the floor, when you have nothing and you're growing up, you can lay in that nothing, or you could decide to do something about it. And my mother knew every angle of the help that we could possibly get ourselves out of that hole. And I think that's true in business. It's a great learning lesson. It's when you're in a hole, stop digging, call for help. Even on welfare, poor, and everything else, my mother knew all the rules, regulations, and believe it or not, there's a lot of help out there for people that are feeling bad for themselves. Maybe the interest rates are a little high or this and that. There's always an excuse of the day. but there's always help and a way to position it, angle it, to make it that adversity an advantage. And I think that you've got to train your mindset to do that, or you end up spending a lot of time and a lot of days in a hole.
Let's dig a little deeper here. Tell me, because I was fascinated, growing up and being a sports fan and knowing about you, and then finally getting to meet you and understand you, and like I said, get into business, and more importantly, become a friend of you and somewhat of a mentor to me, definitely a mentor to me, teaching me a lot of things here and out. It's been many hours with you on the phone where I'm ready to, kill somebody or jump off a bridge, and you're there to talk me down. How did that all come about? Like, how did you, personally just come up in the ranks and become Brandon Steiner? Because you're one of the most, in my mind, one of the most successful business people, not just sports, but business minds that I ever met. So, and I met quite a few, but you're a special type of cat. How did that come about? Tell your story. So I'd love to hear it.
It's a good question. I mean, and I don't know if there's one particular thing, but one of the things I want to emphasize, and thank you for saying that, Rich. Appreciate that. Confidence is such an important thing. And I think sometimes people measure their level of confidence with maybe how much money they have, the title they have, but it's all an inside job. And I think that as a leader, what I've learned is, one of the things my mother pumped into me is confidence. We had no money. She's like, well, we're broke. We're broke, but our circumstances really suck. So you're not broke. Your circumstances are broke. And I think that when people are going through things, for me, when I've gone through things, it's the confidence and the curiosity that always gets me through. And I've got that at a really young age. And I think it's really important as a leader that your people around you need to feel safe and confident. That's one of the most important things you could do in managing people is, you always want to have a value proposition. You want to be able to serve them and help them. But if you can pump confidence in them, because if you don't pump confidence in them, then how are they going to grow? The only way they're going to grow is by being curious. If you're curious and you try new things that doesn't work and they're not confident, then, oh, my God, Rich is going to kill me. You can't have it. So you've got to be able to pump confidence in the people, which then will push forward their curiosity. And curiosity is the main highway to happiness, to growth. If your people are not curious, then they're not going to be growing, and then they're not going to be happy, because I would say happiness resides on the crossroads of gratitude and growth. And you talk to most people, when they're not happy, it's because they're bored. Money, no money, making a lot of money. If they're not growing, they're generally, you're bored. Right. And then, you can always say, if you are bored out there, then, increase your gratitude. That's something you can always fix quickly. Go help someone else. Mm-hmm. So what I learned from my mom at an early age, and to get this crazy, curious mind that I have, is even though you may not have a lot, it's never the wrong time to do the right thing. And you can help people, even if it's walking somebody across the street, holding a door for someone, whatever you could do, that any act of kindness is a form of leadership. And setting that example, I remember, we were at my aunt's house, and she lived on the third floor, so we took the elevator down. As young kids, we ran out of the elevator, and we got to the car, and we couldn't find our mother. So 20 minutes looking for mom, and finally we went up the stairs to see if she was still in the apartment, and then we went back in the elevator, and she was standing there. 20 minutes she was standing in the elevator. And says, "You ever walk out of an elevator before a woman, let alone open the door? Are you out of your mind?"
That's awesome.
And it's just a lesson about how, having manners and doing the right thing is such an important thing. And it really leads to recruiting. It's because talent acquisition. So to get the mindset that I have just comes over a long period of time, asking for a lot of help, having some really good people that either I've been able to meet as mentors or following. I figured out I didn't have a lot of good guidance at home. So I had to kind of go pick some people out that maybe I could use as some guidance. I've done that with parenting. I mean, what do I know about being a parent? It's true. So, I always followed, I was close with Jeter, and I always followed his parents and tried to use some of their techniques. Eli Manning, talked to Archie about it. Another guy also is Chad Pennington. His dad was amazing and got some great parenting lessons. So, if you're listening, it's never too late to be a better parent, be a better husband, and be a better employee or be a better boss. You just have to decide whether you want to do that or not. And Rich, the reason why a lot of people don't, because why wouldn't you, is maybe something happened along the way that didn't work out, and you let your past dictate your future. And but we all have the ability to grow and get better. And if you've chosen not to do that, that's a mistake because it'll lead to some boredom and unhappiness.
Absolutely. You were not always in the industry of collectible exchange and the sports world. What did you grow up inspiring to be? What did you want to be?
It's funny. I see kids come to me all the time, like they want to be an agent or they want to. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. It's like, it's like somebody saying I want to be a brain surgeon. First you got to figure out if you can pass chemistry. If you get through, it's like, you get through physics. I just think everybody wants the view. They don't want the climb.
That's right.
And to me, I just thrived on the climb, not get caught up on the view.
What was your climb? What was it like?
It was a grind, man. I mean, there's nothing that I wouldn't do, Rich. And I look back on it, and I wish that maybe I was even a little more selective, but washing dishes, working in warehouses, sweeping, cleaning, delivering newspapers, delivering fruit and vegetables.
This is when you were 8, right?
I started when I was 10, but I just don't remember ever not going out in the street
And hustling.
and just figuring out how I can make a buck. Selling candy for the Boy Scouts. Nobody sold more candy than me. Whatever it was, I worked full time in high school. Think about it. Full time job in high school. So waking up in the morning, I trained myself to wake up. I actually wish that maybe I would calm that part of my brain down sometimes. But I wake up in the morning and figuring out how I'm going to make money is the easiest thing. Figuring out what I'm going to have for breakfast is a lot harder for me. Figuring out what I'm going to wear today is harder. So I know some people, if you have a little ADHD, I've just been always waking up in the morning. This morning, I woke up at 5 this morning, and I can't imagine what it's like to be in my office, but I just shot off 50 ideas of how we can make money this week. And every idea I think was pretty accurate, and I don't know if we can execute all those ideas. So I think, for me, it's high level of curiosity, a lot of enthusiasm. And I think that there were a lot of jobs I knew were not going to be my gig. You know what I mean? I knew I wasn't going to be a waiter. I knew I was going to be a busboy or a dishwasher. But let me tell you something. Nobody did dishes better than me and faster. Whatever job I took, it was with a lot of enthusiasm. And that stuff, is kind of contagious. You could build off of that. You build confidence when you start figuring out. You take a job, you're making $1 an hour. All of a sudden, now the guy's trying to keep me. I'm making $1.25. It builds a lot of confidence in a kid. Feel like I can figure something out. And that's something I try to instill with my staff. I try not to be the person who answers all their questions and answers their problems because I want to instill confidence in them. So I want them, you figure it out. I got you. You're good. I know you know more of me. You know more about this than me. Those are things I try to incorporate into my leadership style, knowing how important confidence is. And same thing with my kids. My kids are, Dad, what do you think when they were young? I'm like, what do you think? You decide. I don't know where we should go on vacation. I don't know where we should go eat. You figure it out. Because I think when your employees or your kids start figuring stuff out, that's how you build confidence. Let them figure it out. Yeah, there could be some failing, or maybe you could do it better than them, but it's hard as a leader to let your people go, even though you could do it better and you got the quick answer. And that's been my growth as a leader, I think, particularly with this new company. And I think the confidence, once you instill the confidence in, you have brokers on the street that are just more confident. They know how far they can go, and they know how to do all the little things, but they know you got their back. It's critical.
So you graduate high school, college?
Oh, yeah.
Would you?
To me, you asked about, how do you get where I am today? And it's first of all, it wasn't from reading. Because, I can't read. I struggle reading. But, I'm a dog. I'm just constantly... when I had the opportunity to go sit with you, my wife's like, "Why are you doing?" I'm not. It's not just that's just some guy on a corner, doing a little real estate. You were running a bunch of offices, but I'm like, man, this guy just let me sit in his office. This is unbelievable. I'd have to pay a fortune to get the education, and who knows if I'd even get it. So you got to be a dog about learning and getting info. You have to have that level of curiosity. So when I was in high school, I went to a pass-fail high school. My mom didn't want me to go to a regular high school because they had sports. I was a crazy sports nut, and I wasn't that good. Okay. I'm not one of these guys who my shoulder, if this happened. No. I led the league. Matter of fact, I made the top 90% of the athletes in my neighborhood possible. It was clear that if hoping somebody didn't show up, so I get on the field was my prayer. Like usually, all the kids in my neighborhood were better than me. So it was never like, oh, wow.
But you slammed over Jordan.
Well, yeah, I did kick his ass. But, so like going to high school with pass-fail got me to understand the importance of learning because I wasn't fighting for the grade. I was fighting to make sure they understood what the curriculum was. Mm-hmm. And then when I went to my mom to go to college, she was like, Mom, when I passed for high school, I got 760 on my boards. That's combined, by the way. And my son does remind me that he doubled my score. And we have no money. I said, 0? No, less than 0. Wow. I cannot contribute anything to your education, not spending money, nothing. Like, wow. I want you to go find the most expensive school in New York State. And that's where I want you to apply. And you got to go up there. You got to make a sale. And I'm like, how? He goes, well, the New York State, we get extra aid from New York State, and nobody has the balls to apply to a school like Syracuse, who's as poor as we are. And you just go up there, you make a sale, and I did, and that was probably one of the biggest breaks.
Wow.
Going to Syracuse. Working full-time, yes, but being around people of wealth when you're that poor and realizing, like, these kids got nothing on me. Like, I could do.
Oh, yeah.
And matter of fact, I think I got something on them. And then also getting to know them and what their family, their parents do to learn, to see like how you can obtain wealth and how you could grow. And I think, for people listening out there, like, don't ever be intimidated by anyone. Like, I never got intimidated by being on the field at Yankee Stadium. I told you, I'm like, listen, if you're not up to it, I'll go play short. How hard could it be? I'm like, he's, looking at me. I always gave him a hard time about that kind of thing. But, I've never been intimidated to get in the front office, talking to the president of the Yankees, the general manager. That comes from just the confidence combined with my curiosity and my enthusiasm. So that's kind of how it all comes. And Syracuse is a big break. Not easy, graduated with an accounting degree. But in my senior year, I was showing AV as my work-study job, and I show some movies for this personnel and public relations. Personnel was a degree in personnel and industrial relations.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, I like this. It's about unions, about how to deal with staff. I mean, think about taking a class for staffing, about how to treat employees. So I decided to get a second degree in that, and it was really helpful. So you just don't know. Like you got your eyes wide open, you don't know. The accounting degree has been incredibly helpful, and it was a bitch getting it. I'm not going to lie. I needed every bit of the study group that I got myself into to get through that degree. It was not like,
Sure.
no problem. Like I see my son just whizzes through engineering. I'm like,
I
needed like 3 months of serious tutoring to get a D in calculus.
I know I got a D.
Crazy.
That's awesome. So, get out of college. What do you do next?
Well, my mother told me, don't even think about getting into your own business. I was like, I'm an entrepreneur. I mean, I'm ready to go. But don't even think about it. You need to go work for some people. You need to learn how business gets done. And you also need to get how business gets done on a high level. You need to go get into, a corporate environment. So I think the big break was, I went to work for Hyatt. Guy cutting my tie. I never had a white shirt. I had to go to thrift stores to buy white shirts and stuff. But, I learned how meetings get held, budgets, forecasting. It was a really good experience. Hyatt had a great training program. Went to the Hard Rock, which was a good break, huge break.
Sure.
And learned about celebrity, learned about collectibles. And then just in my mind, which I'm thinking hard rock, rock and roll, collectibles. It wasn't really a business, but I was thinking I could maybe do a sports thing. I opened up one of the first sports bars.
Stop right there real quick, because it's kind of interesting. When I first got to know you, I started hearing your name pop up all the time. Right? And a couple of times I always heard different ways on how you got into, and it was so funny, I knew the way you got into it, but I've heard different ways just listening to people while I'm in doctor's offices, or if I'm in a restaurant, I'm listening to the other table. And I always, for some reason, maybe because I knew you, so I just recognized the name, but it would always be, okay, Brandon Steiner got into Collectible Exchange, or, Steiner Sports, by making all of his money by doing, because he got an autograph and he sold it for double. Tell the people how you ended up doing what you did.
It really comes from a series of not knowing what the hell I was doing. And it didn't bother me that I didn't know what I was doing, because I knew I was going to do it anyway. But it does come to a certain point. I mean, you get different pushes and pulls. I had started Steiner, and I was really just repping players and just trying to make my way, doing some consulting. And to be honest with you, it wasn't working out. It wasn't like I came out of the gate and boom. Matter of fact, I mean, I'm about 5 or 6 years in. My wife says, it's time for you to go get a job. And I took out $10,000. And I was booking a lot of appearances, Rich. I mean, unfortunately, that business hadn't really spiraled like the way it is now, where you book a player for $100,000. I mean, you get Magic Johnson for $5,000. I mean, most of the appearances I was doing was like $1,000, $2,000. You make 10, 15%. And then I just decided that I was going to take $10,000 out of the bank and start a little collectible thing, because people kept calling me, asking me for collectibles. When I was with these athletes, they'd sign some stuff on the side. So when I started doing the corporate appearances, I would offer a bunch of these collectibles as part of them. And then I just remember, because I didn't want to be in the collectible business, and I had an employee at the time that wanted to really get into it, and we opened up this one account that bought all the stuff that I had in the office.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, maybe we better get into this thing. And when I signed Phil Rizzuto in '94, that was really the big break. I didn't realize how big the Yankee thing was, and everybody was crawling all over me to get Phil Rizzuto autographs. And then the first big break was, signing Messier. Messier was a big break, and I signed him exclusively to a memorabilia deal. Again, no idea what I was doing. Nobody had done really hockey collectibles. There was some baseball collectibles around, and I figured let me just do something that no one else is doing. I think it's really important. Like for me, I never have any intention of doing what everyone else is doing. So no interest to me. If someone else is doing it, let them.
Yep.
To me, I want to do something that's going to make an impact, make a difference. I always feel the value proposition is being unique and trying to do something that kind of solves a problem. And being a big Ranger fan, I've lost a little of my love for the Rangers over the years, but I was a crazy Ranger fan, 20, 25 games a year and everything. And I feel like, I feel like that was a customer base I can count on. That was the early indications, like, I don't know how big this collectible thing is, but I can count on that Ranger fan base. Because you walk around the garden, you see the same faces.
Over and over
you
again.
just see the same people. They would not pay their rent and go to the Ranger game, So I started with hockey collectibles and doing a lot of stuff with the Rangers, and there was a good group of guys, and I got a little lucky there. That's how I kind of got really rolling. I never really thought that the thing was going to be as big as it was. I never sat down and came up with any budgets, never put any 3-year forecasts together. I just want to emphasize how little, or the fact that I really did not know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I had the confidence and enthusiasm and curiosity to figure it out. And one of the things that happened in the 90s, there was a lot of fraudulent autographs. And people did know me for being with a lot of athletes. I mean, I was booking so many athletes all over the country. At one year, I booked over 2,000 appearances myself.
Wow.
With an intern and a part-time employee. So I was moving a lot of talent around, not making a lot of money, but moving a lot of talent around. So when I started the collectible thing, I had already that brand where people knew I was connected to the athletes. And I came up with this thing where the Steiner seal means it's real.
Remember that?
And we had a little theme song to it. The Steiner seal means it's real. Remember the moment. I mean, it was like, I don't know how it's just so ridiculous. But people were humming this to us, and it kind of caught on. Remember, there's no internet.
Sure.
So one of my big things was photos. Because I didn't read a lot, I always looked at books and magazines with photos in them.
Okay.
Now I'm thinking, wow, it'd be nice to get some of those photos signed. So I just found magical moments. Memorabilia is moments that matter. So I'd go and find magical moments, Carlton Fisk, Bobby Orr flying through the air. Find all these great moments. Joe Namath putting his finger up, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went and started chasing after the athletes to sign it, not the other way around. So I figured people always have a magical moment, and they'll buy that magical moment. So I zoned in on that one thing, and it's really what put me on the map. Is
That's
making
amazing.
magical moments, making them real. Leyritz's home run,
Sure.
that kind of thing. And I had a great eye for the photos. That's how really Steiner got created, and that's why I took the memorabilia from really being a hobby, really into a business, is the focusing on moments of time and really the stuff that the players were wearing, the photographs, and replicating all that stuff.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. What would you say was one of your, you're speaking, and I know they're all great signs, but what was one of your best signs ever? Was it Phil Rizzuto? Was it somebody else?
Well, to be honest with you, it was really Otis Anderson. Otis Anderson in 1990
Interesting.
was my Jerry Maguire moment. I had nothing. I was probably at the low point of the business. I was in an office maybe the size of this room, which is not a big office, and it was me, myself, and I share in an office share, and I was trying to figure out what the hell to do. I was selling the closed circuit fights, and I was outside in the parking lot. A lot of Giants, when you talk to them, like, I know Brandon was out in the parking lot many days trying to, hook up with us, get us work. And I'd always be in the parking lot waiting for LT and some of the players I knew. because you had to get their phone numbers to book them. And Otis was the first guy out because he really wasn't playing. So he didn't play until that 1 year as a Giant, but he was such a nice, friendly guy. And when he started playing, because I don't know if you remember, Rodney Hampton broke his foot,
Yep.
and all of a sudden now he's a future running back, and he got that job. And I think it's just really for people to realize how fractionally you can go from an incredible level of success to nothing. You know, faith is a weird way of finding its way. Joe Morris was the last cut. It was him or Joe. And Joe had won the Super Bowl in '86.
Right.
And Parcells went with Otis instead of Joe, and Joe went to Cleveland. Joe, my friend from Syracuse, who, you know, my roommate was the fullback at Syracuse, so I was very close with Joe. And I cried because when Joe was leaving. That was painful for me. But I'd see Otis, and I would find these little gigs for him, $250, $500. So I developed a relationship with him. He wasn't a big name, but he was a first-round pick for the Cardinals. He was a personality. And sure enough, he starts playing. And when he goes to San Francisco to play, this is the most magical moment. Somehow I have the balls, Rich. I'm talking to him. I said, listen, when you beat the 49ers in that game, remember, they're going on the road. They rarely beat the 49ers, let alone on the road.
That's right.
I'm going, when you beat the 49ers, there's only 1 week between the NFC Championship game and Super Bowl. I need you to be focused and keep in touch with me because I'm not going to go to the Super Bowl. I'm going to stay in this office and find you work, but you're going to be the MVP. Now, that's outrageous.
That is.
And Otis and I kid around about it, but, you know, he agreed, and he went through the whole story about how he was going to win the MVP. We came up with this whole dream and fictitious thing, and sure enough, boom, he wins the Super Bowl.
Did it happen that way, too?
100%. And
That's awesome.
What's crazy is that I spent every waking moment, didn't leave the office to find him any work and every work. And it was a great learning lesson for me to really learn how to deal with a hot player. His career was over, by the way. So it was a little bit, you know, I really had to go strike the iron while I was hot, but it really taught me how to deal with a hot market and how to deal possibly with a higher level player. And anything I didn't know, he taught me. And it was tough love. It wasn't kind about it. I remember being on an airplane. I couldn't get a first class seat. He's by the door of the airplane, and he won't get on the plane because it's not first class. Then he gets on the microphone and asks the entire plane if they think he should get on the flight because I'm not doing my job, and he's got to sit in the coach.
That's hysterical.
You know, that kind of humiliation. And I had to beg him. Like, you know, I was $1,000 commission on that gig, and I literally had to beg him to get on the plane because he was not getting on the freaking plane. But you remember these things, and even to this day now, when I'm booking a player, I know I can put him in Comfort Plus or whatever, but I'm like, no, I got to get him in first class. And just a lot of lessons with Otis. Otis was the first big break. It was a lot of people in New York trying to get him, and I got him, and was able to kind of go around New York and kind of showcase him, and gave me an opportunity to call a lot of companies. It's funny how things work out. Like, I had a lot of good relationships. Lawrence Taylor was a big break, but Otis was a moment of time. And the fact that I had a good relationship with LT was really a really good start.
So we could talk about this all day because you got so many stories, and we're limited in time because literally I could sit here for hours, and I think people would be so interested in it. And we definitely got to come back, obviously, to have more of these stories. But
hopefully my wife's not listening because she doesn't want to hear it.
thousands of times.
Has lived through this whole experience with me, but it's been an amazing, epic journey, Rich. I mean, it's just been crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But what got you to claim to fame? Was it the dirt? Was it the stadium? What was it? What was the idea that got you to Brandon Steiner? Like, hey, I made it.
It's a good question. It's all. First of all, I was always extremely driven about my brand.
Okay.
Even when I had nothing to be driven about, I was, the way you used my name, even the way it looked on the stationery, I was like emphatic about it. And I think that I just understood the PR part of, maybe I got that from the Hard Rock, I don't know, but I was extremely aggressive in the 90s with PR, mainly because no one else, there's only a few people that could speak. The sports business was changing rapidly. There was only a few people that could really speak that was knowledgeable, and I studied it like there was no tomorrow, so that every time something happened, the cameras were in my office. The radio stations were calling me, and I used that to my advantage. I became a student, because I thought it would be helpful to me in business, to the point where I needed to learn everything about the sports business, and figured out a way to communicate it to people so that they would be interested and would understand it. And if you go back and you Google me, like the amount of interviews, I mean, I was doing like 2 or 3 TV interviews a week. I mean, almost to the point like I'm out day and night between doing the business, doing the interviews, just trying to build the brand. And it was not selling. I just want to make sure I never went on TV to sell anything. It was always to explain. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's why this is happening. And that's kind of how I became an expert. I think that, when you get a claim to fame, which is nice of you to say, I don't know where people stack me up as far as fame and this and that. But what I do know is that I feel like I'm an expert in sports marketing and collectibles. And it comes from being an incredible student and never stopping saying, well, I know a lot without wanting to learn more. And not only learning about what my company and what I'm doing, but I want to know what everybody else is doing. And that was a key in the 90s. Like, I think, if you're a real estate broker, like, you have to know what every other firm is doing. I tell people all the time when we go around to Keller offices and speak, I'm like, if you don't know the #1 Keller office and you haven't visited it and you're a team leader, like, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you know everything that's going on in the best Keller Williams offices that are producing? Because if you could steal 1 or 2 ideas, I would say R&D, rip off and duplicate.
Right.
So for me, the media thing was listen, I can't do that now. Things have changed. But what I got away with, from like 92 to the early 2000s is you put me in jail for that, because the amount of media, and I got good at it. And also, even with the media, Rich, I would go get coaching. I would watch interviews, and I would go to really high, like Howard Rubenstein was one of my fans. He did my PR early. I would go back and watch interviews with him. When I started doing my ESPN show, I'd go to the program director and listen to the show, and they'd comment on my answers and comment on the pace of what I was saying. So it's one thing to get the press, but if you get the opportunity to do media, be good at it. If you get the opportunity to be a broker or whatever it is, part of the business you're in, be good at it. Be focused on being great at it. And I would just say that I have no intention ever in my life to be good and be successful. It's really not interesting to me. If it was going to be extraordinary or bust. It was going to be like, that guy. That's the guy. Like, I didn't know how that was going to play out, but that's was my mindset, that I was going to, at one point, be unbelievably great at something. I wasn't sure what it was going to be. I was lucky the sports thing kind of found me, but I was very committed to the restaurant business. I was a really good restaurateur. But you got to a crossroads. I'm like, I don't know how good a dad, husband, I don't know how this is going to work for my family. I'm too crazy. I'll die in a restaurant. I'll never have a life. So I chose to walk away from that industry, even though I had a pretty good career going. I know I would need a little more flexibility, but whatever it is you want to do, be great at it, man. And it's out there to do, especially if you're younger. Just get a little smarter every day.
So, and we're definitely having you back if you want to, because I love
Of course,
this.
Listen, when Rich calls, I just ask what time and where. You know what I mean? And I mean that. Like, I love what you built at Keller. It really is fun for me. I think you're a great recruiter. I love the management people that you hire. I enjoy working with them. I enjoy coaching them. Just accomplishing what we've accomplished over the last few years. And you're crazy. It's at the end of the day, like, I don't want to be around boring people anyway, but you're crazy. You're never satisfied. And you're always looking for different angles. So it's always fun when I'm with you. So thank you for that opportunity to bring me into the family, so to speak. And that's me. That's how
One more question.
I love it.
One more question. Let's end it with this, and then we'll
Sound like
again.
Columbo now.
Yeah.
One more question. One more
question. What's the one piece of advice that you would give to any person in leadership, agent, doesn't matter what they Keller Williams, anything, young person starting out? What's the one piece of advice they must know?
Well, I go back to, curiosity, enthusiasm. Like, check your curiosity, enthusiasm. You can control those two things. Mm-hmm. And if you're not curious about what you're doing, enthusiastic about it, probably need to do something else. And, have faith. We haven't talked a lot about it, but, faith is believing in something you can't see. Everybody wants to make a gazillion dollars tomorrow, but have faith that if you do all the right things, you keep learning and you keep grinding and you keep building relationships. Have faith. I mean, you go to the gym, you start lifting weights. You're not going to show muscles in a day or a week, but after a bunch of months, you start seeing yourself getting stronger. Play the long game. Don't be afraid to play the long game and incorporate faith into your diet. And faith is, really believing in something that you can't always see, but having the confidence and curiosity and enthusiasm to back it. I've had a lot of low moments in my career. It hasn't been all gravy. Getting thrown out of Steiner, and I didn't see that coming. Having your wife sit you down and tell you to, like, shut the company down. These are low moments. Different things, players that have left me that I thought, Messier leaving in 96 to go to Vancouver. Mm-hmm. I thought my company was done. He was like our main guy. So you're going to have low moments, but the one bit of advice I would give you even have to just say that, is fall in love with the worst things that's happened to you.
I was just going to ask that.
Absorb it. Yeah, it sucks. It's painful. But those are the things that are really going to, how you adjust to those things and how you absorb those things in and deal with them will have a lot to do with how far you go. Believe me, getting thrown out of Steiner, you could peel me up off the floor for a few months. I was devastated. But I knew it was the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm so grateful that it did. And you have to find gratitude in some of the things that really suck, because that's the things that help you become the person you're going to be.
Well, with that said, thank you. Like I said, thank you for being a partner. More importantly, thank you for being a friend. Grew to love you. Looking forward to the future with you. Can't wait to do many, many, many more things with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Thanks, Rich.